Hey all, so this is War 8 of the season, and I've got some really interesting fights lined up on this one. I do have to acknowledge that this is the war where Android users got surprised with really bad inputs. I saw some really ugly fights from some of my friends that I know are very good players, so definitely not trying to downplay it. We did not know whether this war was going to count or not, so after getting burned a little bit in Season 30, we decided to go through and treat it as though it were going to count and were going to be important to the season, and so we gave it our best, despite the fact that we did give up a couple deaths to that particular issue. Now, I've taken this node before. It's the one where when you repeat a basic attack, the opponent gains Prowess, and then also gains block penetration for the next 6 seconds. We are intentionally playing into that. Normally, if I take somebody else with Reed, I play around the node to avoid the Prowess, not bothering with that here, because whenever we are in Blitz Protocol, the orange one, we are converting the Prowess to shocks, and because this is against a mutant, we've picked up quite a few armor ups. The increase in block penetration really doesn't matter that much because the armor is still reducing damage. Now, we are accelerating high ground with all of that shock damage, so that did a fair amount, but less than 10% loss to a high ground defender, and when it goes that quickly, is completely acceptable to me. Technically for this Venom, it has aggression prowess, so you could use Nimrod here, and you wouldn't have to worry about high ground, but I think that would be a terrible idea, because it is still power focus 2 and class disadvantage. So I'm going with Reed because I would rather just deal with fewer specials in general. And also, he's Reed and he's incredibly tanky, and I would probably evade something if I did have to push him to the special 2. This is just super easy. But one thing that you'll notice is I brought She-Hulk, so for both of these attackers, landing debuffs on the opponent is also stacking power stings, and we're getting some really solid detonations here. Because when we have 3 up, let's watch for this one. Yeah, you saw how much that took off. I missed the actual number, but his health just chunked down. So those do scale with your modified attack. So the fact that I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 debuffs on the opponent, because remember the passive counts as 3, is boosting my attack significantly and making those power stings hit much harder, makes that a very, very easy fight for Reed. So then we move on to Doom. This is a good placement. He is a difficult defender. If he catches you even once or twice and that heavy crits, like, he can end the fight. But I gotta admit, I wasn't really worried about this one. I've now taken, I think, 3 rank 4 Dooms here, and this is down to a rank 3. So I just knew that this would feel faster. I also had not seen any evidence of this alliance placing without willpower, so I knew it was going to be much easier than the rank 4 without willpower I faced not too long ago. All that said, you still want to treat the node with respect, and I'm being very careful with my parries to try and make sure that I don't let him through so he would shock me and then immediately go into a heavy. As usual on this node with Reed, we are trying to land most of our hits during the stun because I have the Petrify Mastery maxed and it reduces how much damage he gains, or sorry, how much power he gains, even on top of the suppression debuff. So that's why we already have access to our special 2 here before he's even gained his second bar. Here we are going to go ahead and trigger Power Snack just to try and bait him out. It does put the shock on us, so there's a risk. If I am not on top of my dexes and parries and he comes in and hits into my block, he can stun me through the block in heavy, and that would hurt. But as long as I stay on top of that, we actually heal from the shock, because we already have 2 debuff siphoners up, and this is only a rank 3 Doom, so that part is very nice. And we are already back up to our special 2, and now this fight is completely locked down. He gains basically no power whenever I'm hitting him while stunned. He gains very little power when I hit him when he's not stunned. and whenever we trigger Power Snack like that, it is fully reversed. Very easy fight. At this point, I was basically thinking, should I try and spam special ones until the end, see if I can get the extra charges? I figured I'd just go for the special 3 instead, close it out, not mess around with Doom, because as we talked about, if something goes wrong against him, it can go wrong quickly, even with a counter this solid. So get him all the way down to 2% on that, really feeling the difference in rank here, and then finish him off. I also know, because I took a screenshot from that particular fight, there was a 14k Power Sting at one point in there. I really love that synergy, and I love so much that it applies to both of the attackers I'm using here. So on to Tier 2, this is Path 6. This is a good placement for Apocalypse because he starts with an extra Prowess and is unblockable on all of his specials when he has 3 or more Prowess. Apocalypse Defending starts with 2 in the first place, so basically if you don't remove those Prowess, all of his specials are unblockable for the entire time. Enter Nimrod. As I said with House of X, all we need to do is land 4 lights in a single combo to switch into Blitz Protocol, and we start removing those Prowess, and against Apocalypse, they never come back. On this node, anyway. So at that point, we've pretty much removed all of the danger. We're not going to be nullifying active buffs, so return policy doesn't come into play. We've completely taken out the unblockable part of the node, and we've pretty much taken out everything dangerous in Apocalypse's kit, because if he doesn't have any of those prowess, his specials don't hit very hard, and he doesn't have a whole lot else going on. So I go ahead and I let these debuffs from Reed fall off, go for the special 2, figure we're going to finish out the fight pretty quick. I should also note that I was originally considering helping out with one of the mini-bosses, but we swapped some things around so that I could afford to wait on this path until the global went down, because my next fight is a rather difficult high ground defender, and we just figured it was safer, given the deaths we'd already given up to the input issues and how close this war was, to just do it that way. And so Nimrod completely deletes Apocalypse there. No worries at all. You saw I completely blocked his special too, and it did basically nothing. I am pretty good at the special 2 decks, but ultimately I decided there it was absolutely not worth the risk, even at a low prowess count. And so I just blocked the whole thing, used a single tier 3 potion to overheal back up, and now we're headed into Green Goblin. So this one worried me a bit, because the node says that after throwing a special, he gains prowess for every blocked hit. We did not have confirmation when we were assigning this war if those prowess happen on the blocked hits, or if they happen at the end of the special. Because if they happened on the blocked hits, then he would go unblockable in the middle of his special 1, and we really did not want to deal with that. However, we also did not want to worry about somebody else slow playing this and, letting high ground build up and just generally having a bad time. So we decided to send Nimrod, and you'll notice that I'm playing him basically the same way that I would against like a null boss with Kingpin or one of those nodes. I'm blocking as soon as I finish my combos to try and keep him from throwing specials. You'll also notice in here that we are applying shocks despite the fact that he does not have any healing or prowess. So it is clearly treating the madness charges as regen effects, but it's also not removing them. So you get extra charge or extra shocks, which is nice for damage, but I'm really glad we took down high ground. You'll also notice that from the 1 hit of that special 2 that I blocked, it gave us a little prowess charge, but the prowess did not apply immediately. So if I ever have to take this in the future with Nimrod, I know that I can safely block the special 1 It'll give him a ton of prowess, and it will probably hurt because of high ground, but that's okay because then I'll just go into Blitz Protocol and get rid of all the prowess anyway and do a ton of damage. So, would be more challenging with high ground up, but obviously just an incredible counter, and I'm not worried about assigning that again in the future. Now, beyond me, I was the last one to move in Battle Group 3, but we also still had, I think, 12 fights left in some of the other battle groups, and we were ahead by 1 kill. Now, we were also leading on time, but we really didn't want to risk that, so for the second time this season, we had to do our last 10-15 fights, assuming we did not have a cushion and could not die or we would lose. And for the second time this season, we clutched it out and everybody just did really great. There were some very difficult fights left, several that were harder than any of the ones I took, and everybody just did really well. So we got another win. We really feel like we're in our stride here. I'm glad that the season is continuing. Hopefully the compensation is appropriate. But I'm just really looking forward to seeing us continue to gel more as an alliance. And I just love war. So more competitive ones before the off-season sounds like fun to me. So I hope those of y'all listening weren't hit too bad by the input issues. I hope everyone gets good pulls from the compensation. And I hope the rest of your season goes well. Until next time, thanks for watching, and take care.